Hi, and welcome to the Tattooed Teacher podcast, where we get to know the person behind the professional, going below the surface of what we see. Join with me as I talk with some incredible individuals from around Australia and the globe. My guest today is Daniel Brown, the principal of Emmanuel and Josiah College here on the Gold Coast. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Well, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good ever what time of day it happens to be that you are listening to the Tattooed Teacher podcast. Now, I am super excited about my guest tonight, Dan Brown. He is the principal of Emmanuel College at Carrara. He is a passionate educator. We connected on LinkedIn. He has a joy for education. He has a joy for his students. He has a joy for just everything that I see in his life, from the schooling to the kids to the formals to the therapy dogs, and even those who sometimes are overlooked with Josiah College. So I'd love to hear more about that as well. So, Dan, welcome to the Tattoo Teacher podcast.
Thank you, Phil, for inviting me. It's a privilege to be here. Looking forward to it.
Oh, look, to be honest, the privilege is all mine. I appreciate your time as a principal, as a headmaster, as head of school. However, the terminology is deemed in various circles. You're a busy man, so I truly appreciate you taking your time at this time of year to have a chat with me. So thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Now, the first question I ask my guests is, what is your why? So you're in education, you're at the top level in high schools of administration. It can be a lonely job. It is a very hard job. You witness the ultimate highs and the tremendous lows of a school ecosystem. So why do you do it?
Phil, it's a long story, so I'm going to give you the short, abridged version as much as I can. My personal why is deeply personal, and it stretches back to when I was 14 years old, and I lost my mum, and I'm originally from Northern Ireland, she was back there, and I was here with my dad. And long story short, it was the staff, the teachers, in particular my school chaplain at the school that I went to, that really just their care, their compassion for me, and the difference they made in my life. So at the age of 14, I went, I want to be a teacher. And it wasn't long after that I decided, do you know what, I actually want to be a principal. So a lot of people said, yeah, you want to be a principal at 14. How on earth have you come to that position? And for me, it was, I saw the impact that one of my principals had on me even during this matter. And I thought, you know what, I want to try and make change and do the best that I can for kids at the school community level, at that that organizational level, because teachers are great. They can impact, but you can impact a certain number of kids. I wanted to try and impact kids on a whole school level. So that's my why.
And I guess on a daily opportunity, on a daily basis, you have that opportunity to impact. I can't remember the student population of Emmanuel College, but it's probably at least 1,200 students from start to finish, and everything that I see from you on socials, through LinkedIn, the things I hear from other staff members. I've got a few friends who are there. I'm going to Danny Welsh, who is your dean of science.
Science.
All I ever hear is that you love schooling, you love education, and you bring a joy to it. So where does that joy come from?
I think it's. I guess it comes to it. It is in my character. I've always enjoyed fun. I'm a bit of a prankster. Love pranks. And I've always loved my colleagues. You can't prank as much when you're a principal. You can give it a bit of a red hot crack, but I enjoy just a lighthearted joy. And I think kids really need joy And I think in my role, it's even more important because they can sort of see you as this stereotype of what a principal or what a head is like, and so I see it as one of my key roles or key jobs is to debunk that and to sort of say, well, I want kids to be able to come up and chat to me and feel that they can have a chat, but also see me as a, that human side. So for me, the joy, the everyday laughs, and more, humanizing me and what my role is so important, and that really comes to the heart of well-being, and also just what our purpose is in and around character as a school as well.
So, with you talk about character, and you talk about the character of the school. What for those who don't know what Emmanuel College
Mm.
is, um, how would you encapsulate that? How would you encapsulate the character of Emmanuel College here on the Gold Coast?
Mm. Well, we're a pretty unique school because we are a Christian school, but we're also a multi-denominational Christian school. So we're completely independent of a particular church. So we have got this just beautiful, broad diversity of Christian faith that makes up our school. So we have Catholics, we have Protestants, we have Anglicans, we have Greek Orthodox. We have such a really eclectic mix of faith that makes up our school. But I think what really sets Emmanuel aside is that that Christian transcendent beauty that just encapsulates our community. And what does that look like, Phil? I think it's kind of the vibe. It's best. It's the Emmanuel vibe. That's what everybody said to me. Oh, you'll feel the Emmanuel vibe, and I'm thinking, okay, I like vibes, but it's what everyone will talk about. And it's what you can't describe, but what you can feel. And when you can feel something, I think that's more powerful than words. And so it is what you can feel within our community. But the character focus really drives home from what is at the center of our school, and that is Christ. And so and that is that servant-hearted, Christ-like character. And our Emmanuel Compass with our 8 virtues sort of embodies that. And we seek to try and embody that in all we do, both in and out of the classroom. And that's what we seek for our graduates because, our purpose statement is really simple, but it sort of sums it up. And it's because my English teacher always said we never start a sentence with a preposition, but we did because rules were meant to be broken, Phil, weren't they?
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
but it's but it's because the world needs people of good character who pursue truth, and because our world needs this next generation to have the best character possible because our world needs it.
Oh, look, I couldn't agree more. And we're as educators, we are in that prime position and a uniquely valuable position as well, I believe, to impact the lives of these children, these young men and
Hmm.
women, the future leaders, the future teachers, lawyers, doctors, garbage men, carpenters, electricians,
Hmm.
every gamut of life, and we have that opportunity to impact their lives in such a positive way.
Hmm.
In saying that, there are unfortunately a few out there that have that negative impact. Um, so how how do you balance that? Like as a principal, again, I know your school. I've got friends who work there. I've been on campus several times for various things.
Hmm.
Um, but how do you balance that of wanting to impact in a positive way, but then there are negative things that happen as a principal. Like what do you do there?
Hmm. Well, some of my principal colleagues, one particular principal who I know who's retiring this year, and his sort of famous saying is principalship, headship, it's the best job in the world with some of the worst days. And because you just have this I would call it a gift, to really serve in this role, and to steward schools, serve others, and shape young people through, not just yourself, but through the communities that you serve. But they are communities, and communities, are organic, and things happen. Good things happen, bad things can happen. And I suppose what we seek to do, what I seek to try and do, is to uphold just the values of the school, and why we're here and all we do, regardless of what the situation is, but also, protect. My I guess my solemn duty is to protect my students, the students that are under my care in my community. And I suppose, that's a responsibility, that I take really, really seriously. And so, largely, 90+ % of the time that is just, joy filled, as we have already talked about. But sometimes there's some really tough times that, and I personally, I'm in my Myers-Briggs, I'm an ESFJ, so I'm a feeler. So, I take, my decision making is about others and about seeking to try and find harmony. So for me, tough decisions, hard decisions are really, really hard, because I play out the impact and how that will be for the different parties involved. Doesn't mean I won't make the decision, but it means that I go around the world
Yeah.
and experience it all before up until that decision is made. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely. And so what that brings to me is like you're feeling with that. I remember I did that test many years ago. I can't remember exactly what I am, but we're not too dissimilar. I refer to myself as an empath now. It's just like I take into account, and sometimes at my expense, and my sacrifice, the not so much importance, but I look at how is that going to impact that particular student, that particular staff
Yeah,
member, that
yeah,
particular, sometimes families, because even as a classroom teacher, I've got to make those phone calls, I've got to send those emails, and that can throw a huge spanner in the works. And as you well know, that it can only just be a simple email that can unravel a family situation. So. But yeah, it's tough being that feeling person, because you just go, oh, I know what you're going to go through. I don't want to do that to you, but I guess as a head,
mm.
you've got to do that. You've got to make those tough decisions.
Yeah, I signed up for it. So
But it sounds like, back to earlier in the introduction, you were talking about your chaplain back in as a young man, as a young boy, that he had an impact on you. So do you bring that, or does that help impact your decision making, that you are going through such a tremendously difficult time, um, but you have that support system there, and is that what you try and impart into your staff and your students?
yeah, I think it's I think you've got a range of elements there, Phil. There's a personal Christian faith that clearly you draw upon. There's you know principles. Whilst it can be lonely, the inter-principal network is just it's just phenomenal. I when as you will well know, and some of your listeners will well know, I had that tragic incident early in the year when I lost a student in the most tragic of circumstances. And one of the things that just gave me such tremendous strength from in an interpersonal level was just the kindness, the care, the compassion that flooded me from other principals, other schools, and in my extended network. It was hugely empowering, but also even within my own community. I think that also comes to the strength of my own school community. This is my sixth school that I've worked in, Phil, and I don't think I've experienced a community like this, where even in my role that there is just that that outward flow of support and encouragement. And I think that sort of speaks to what I've already expressed in the context of our my community, and how blessed I am to be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with that blessing and that expression of value into your community, in the recent past, so obviously in the last couple of years, Emmanuel College actually embarked on quite a bold move
Mm,
in education. in the starting of Josiah College.
Hmm.
So, for those who don't know what Josiah College is, could you explain what it actually is, but
Hmm.
why Emmanuel actually took and look, in my opinion, I think it was a risk
Hmm.
for a school to do that, um, because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
if you could like explain the heart behind Josiah, what it
Hmm.
actually is, and how the Emmanuel community supports that.
Mm. Listen, it's a beautiful little story around it, Phil, which I'll try and keep brief. But essentially, we had a board member, and the board member had a son, Josiah, and who was at Emmanuel College in our junior school, and Josiah was on was autistic, and it was a really tough time for Josiah, and it ultimately resulted in him having to leave the school. And of course, you can imagine just how hard that is for a student, let alone the family and parent. And then the opportunity, long story short, the opportunity came up for us to acquire some land just adjacent, right on the boundary of the school. And the previous principal to me, along with the board, decided that there was a real opportunity to establish a school for students on the autism spectrum, and really with halfway through to 2018, the school was commenced from year 2 through to year 6, and since then the school has expanded, and next year will be the first year of the school being prep right through to year 12. So we'll have our first year 12 class next year with just
Wow.
over 100 students. And even in this is only my third year at the school, and it is just incredible. It is just incredible to see, students over there. And because for some students like that, mainstream, it's just neurotypical schooling, mainstream. It's just it's really hard. It is so they're using all their energy that they can to not be autistic, and then they come home and they're just exhausted. And homeschooling is there's really those two options, or there's an SAS school. There's really nothing really in between that is specialist and will tailor to their needs. And one of the when I first started, because we started at year 2, and we started at year 2 just because of diagnosis at that particular time. But the students that came in, the trauma, the vicarious trauma that they had from previous school experiences, that just took such a long time to work through. But now, starting in prep, we've got students that are coming in, and I've just seen the whole school community transform. It is just so calm, so specialized to each individual, and it's just incredible.
It sounds like an amazing place to that's impacting families around the Gold Coast. Um, it it sounds that it's the staff that you, I guess, attract for that would be a special, I guess, a special breed. So how do you best suit? Because I mean, a prep to a year 12. And look, I've been in education for a long time, and just as we talk about neurodiversity, neurotypical.
Mm,
I mean, just in my classroom, in a standard, normal,
mm,
non-specialist school, whatever we term it now, is challenging enough with NCCD protocols and things like that. So how how do you find the staff that cover that breadth?
mm.
And I guess they're probably rare as hen's teeth, really.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised, and I think one of the things that which has just been lovely has been the potential secondment between the two schools. So it can be really hard for staff at Josiah College, and particularly when they're there for an extended period of time, and sometimes staff need a break. And so because of the link between the two schools, we have staff that, might come back to Emmanuel for a year or a period of time and then go back. Or likewise, we've got staff that might say, you know what, I feel that this is in my calling, or I want to learn more about this and go over to Josiah, to experience that and to undergo further training, or to be able to just learn actually whilst they're there. So there is quite a lot of flex, but we are lucky in the sense that we've got a whole range of, majority of our staff have that specialist training and have that experience as well. And of course, because of just the way the school is structured, we also have the capacity to just to staff it well and to staff it with the necessary supports.
It it yeah, it must be a huge, I guess, advantage for the staff who are at Emmanuel to actually see how education will actually come into play with, we do all our PD on neurodiversity, and we do the autism training, and we do a whole range of things that educators should do. But I guess it gives your staff a distinct advantage, because they can actually go, all right, well, I can jump down here for 6 months, for a year. I can actually build my skill set. I can get a better understanding, and then I can take it back to my, I guess we'll say, neurotypical classroom. And because there are students who, as we know, it's a spectrum. So they might not fit in the confines of Josiah, the boundaries that are required, but they are pushing the limits of a standard classroom. So that must be a truly ideal opportunity for some staff members.
Yeah, it is, and I think one thing that I see over there is that you truly learn how to differentiate there. Yes, classes are smaller. The classes are of 8 to 10 students, but each student clearly has their own plan, but you really learn how to personalize learning, because that's how you're going to get the best from those students, and you also have to make it practical and make it real world. So when I go over there, I see learning that is meaningful. It is deeply personal, and it connects with each child. And to me, that's, we need to be doing more of that, across the board. We're very, education teachers, we're very compliant, aren't we? We want to, yeah, oh gosh, we better make sure we tick that box and do that. But kids now, education has moved, education has changed. Or sorry, education hasn't moved, kids have moved.
Yes.
And society has moved. So what are we actually doing to create greater personalization and scope? How are we adapting and changing to meet the needs of our kids, whilst not compromising what is still really important about education? I still feel I feel that life-worthy knowledge, rich knowledge, is still really important. It's not about go out there and choose your own adventure, but it's finding that right balance, because it comes down to, for those kids, it's the engagement. So meaning, purpose, and with engagement and belonging and connection comes really good outcomes. Sorry, I got off the high horse.
No, hey, no, absolutely. Because I mean, for me, I am all about relationship first. Like, I've been in education, 22, 23 years now, and you've got about 30 seconds when you walk into a new class. The kids will pick you. They know if you're authentic. They know if you care. And so my goal as an educator, first and foremost, is to try and build relationship, because once I have that relationship, I can then, then they're going to listen to me. They're going to listen to not only the, more importantly, the positive input, but when I need to correct them, they are going to listen to that as well. Because I've seen so many teachers over the years that all they do is they focus on the negative aspect of the child's behaviour, or their performance, or whatever it may be, but that particular student just doesn't listen, doesn't try and improve, or doesn't find the motivation, because there's no positive coming into their life from that teacher. So my goal is to be able to give more positive, so that when I need to correct, they'll go, oh, okay, yeah, I've got the credentials to go, yeah, he's going to listen to he or she is going to listen to me. So, and I'm more than happy to throw. It sounds terrible, and as a principal, you probably don't really want to hear this, but I'm more than happy to throw out a lesson of curriculum to follow down a path of question and answers about life, about relationship, about building that trust in the classroom. So,
no relationship, well, kids, they're relational learners, aren't they?
Oh yeah,
all of them. Yeah.
So, one other thing that I noticed about you is, one, not only the joy that you bring, but I have noticed, and obviously there's legalities, and you've ticked all the boxes, and as you mentioned, compliance and education is full of compliance issues. But you have an amazing dog that goes around Emmanuel College.
I've got two.
Two dogs now.
Two. Yeah, one was not enough, Phil, so we've got two.
Well, can you let us know how that impact? And look, I can see the smiles on the faces of the students, and so look, most people love a friendly dog, but how is that impacting the community of Emmanuel and Josiah?
Well, Josiah's got its own dog now too, so we've got three dogs, and they're all somewhat related, which is interesting. So my two are called Milo, and that's M-Y-L-O. It's not M-I. It's not a chocolate drink. He's an M-Y-L-O, and Maisie. And so listen. So I guess a little bit of background first to understand, Phil. So prior to coming to Emmanuel, I was in Victoria for 5 years through 274 days of lockdown. I'm not scarred, and one of my contacts on LinkedIn was Paulina Skirman at Santa Sabina in Sydney, and I watched her in 2021 as Sydney was emerging out of lockdown, and she had a white Labradoodle puppy called Casper, and I just watched, and she was having troubles with the girls, just with anxiety coming back into school, and I just watched her story unfold with this dog, and I thought, I've got to do that. And so I contacted her, and she was so kind and generous with her time. And then so when I moved up here, I had two older dogs that sadly passed on. And so I decided, well, this is something I'm going to do. I'm going to train these dogs. I'm going to bring them into school, because this is there's nothing bad about this. They can only be good. And so that's probably one of the most rewarding things that I've done, is to, because I wasn't sure. I thought, well, what if I can't train these dogs, Phil? Like, what if they, like, I'm going to be the laughing stock. Like, I'm a principal, and I can't even train a dog. So I thought, anyway. So I proved myself that I could train a dog, and then I went back and got a second one, and it's just been phenomenal. And I think it's been great for me too, and so it's mutually beneficial. And I think what I talked about earlier in the pod about just trying to bring my role in the school and make it every day, make it normal. And so when I'm out and about with the dogs, the kids just will come and see the dogs and come and have a chat to me. They usually don't say hello to me first; they say hello to the dogs first. But I'm used to my staff do the same. I'm lucky if I get a hello. I'm lucky if I get a hello these days. And but the good thing is that it just bridges that divide, and just the smiles. I can walk out of my office. I'm lucky. I'm right in the center of the school. I can walk out of my office and walk down the steps, and all I can hear is Milo and Maisie, and then there's the kids just come running, and it's fantastic. And it's also great because I can have a chat with a child while they're patting the dog, and that it's not awkward. It's not weird about talking to me as who I am. But just the therapy work as well, particularly when we lost a student earlier in the year and other sorts of different matters that can be tough for kids. It's great having the dogs. And Phil, I'll let you in on a bit of a secret. It's pretty good for my well-being too. So which helps as well.
Well, I'm a dog person. I've had dogs all my life, and before we left Sydney, because I'm a Sydney, born and raised in Sydney. I only moved up to the Gold Coast 2016, so just before the Gold Coast got super super popular. So I was blessed. I was able to buy a house that was affordable. But we moved up, and just before we left, unfortunately, my Labrador that we'd had for sort of 15 years passed on, and I said, that's it, no more dogs. I can't do it to myself anymore. And as it sits now, I have 3 dogs.
Yep. Good for you.
Yes, so it's I understand that the animals, especially companion animals, they just bring something to the room. They have this innate sense of the we'll go back to vibe, this is the best word that I can think of. They can pick up the vibe of the emotion in the room, and they know when a child is unwell, or they know when a child is sad. They know when a staff member, God has created these creatures in such a way that they can just read us, and so I love it. And I guess with bringing them into students and being able to distract them as such with the dog, you alluded to, you can have these conversations that wouldn't happen if you just walked up to that particular child. So would you recommend, for if it's suits the ecosystem of that school, would you recommend that schools try that?
Definitely. I think it's just got such high value for all those reasons of connection, well-being, support, and I would thoroughly recommend it. And not just that, but I'd recommend it to other senior staff and principals. It's a lot of people think, oh my goodness, how do you do your job with 2 dogs? And I'd be surprised how easy it is once they're trained. It's honestly, it's they sit with me. They go to all my meetings. They can even come. I still teach. They come to my class with me. Easy peasy. Highly recommended.
Well, I mean, to speak of dogs and headmasters, I remember one of the headmasters that has impacted my life tremendously is when I was at Trinity Grammar School, Milton Chewers. Amazing educator, amazing man. I catch up with him. I would like to catch up with him more, but when he would invite his staff over for dinner over the year, they would have meals, and his dogs were always there. His love for his dogs was amazing. So, but back then there was no therapy dogs. There was no, but they were always around. They were always pride of place, and I mean, a dog person, so we get on very well. So
yeah. Well, Phil, it was interesting because the principal that I spoke about right at the start was Milton Chewers.
Yeah, he's an amazing man of faith, an amazing educator, and as I said earlier, like that's where I cut my teeth as an educator. He took a huge risk on me. I was 2-3 years into teaching. Now I came into teaching a little bit later, but he just said, Phil, I'm going to employ you. And he was like, a spade is a spade, and he goes, Phil, there were more qualified, better teachers, better interviewees, but you know what? I'm going to hire you because you have something that I think Trinity Grammar needs at this stage. And it was just, he taught me so much, and as a headmaster, and some of the lessons were hard learnt. um, but they were done with a grace and a love for his staff.
Hmm.
So I have such fond memories of my
Hmm.
time there. Also with the department that I was under, an amazing technology department.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the and I guess what I'm getting to is, one, there's that feeling, and that bringing that difference into it, but also as a faith community, which Emmanuel is,
Hmm.
bringing that servant leadership into it, in all things. Now he was the boss. There was no arguing with that, but there was a humbleness to it.
Hmm.
Do you find that, I guess, in the circles with other heads that you may interact with, um, do you find, and this could just be anecdotal,
Hmm.
that those who are, I guess, bend towards more the servant leader often find a more stable, more successful, more vibrant school than those who are more of a hard line, I'm the boss, my way or the highway?
Hmm. I don't see, Phil. I think leadership in schools has really shifted. I think it's really changed, and I'm not. I'm trying to think of a principal that I know that is, maybe more of, that's just described as the old school archetype.
Yep.
I just don't see that anymore. I just think that, you know, again, we've sort of said that education has shifted and schools have shifted and staff have shifted. Like schools are, it's hard in schools, and it's hard for staff and it's hard for teachers, because of the current paradigm that we're currently in and experiencing. And I think really the whole principal paradigm has shifted to be one of a leader that that has to still keep their powder dry in the sense of what the culture and school and what's expected, but it is really about serving and caring for others, and sometimes caring for others is being really firm. But no, I really think that the leadership paradigm has, and there'll be some variations there, of course, from person to person, but I don't think that that really firm, um, hard lined approach really exists much anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's good to know, and I mean, that was a bit of a provocative question, I must say.
Mm.
um, but again, and I see that in the classroom. Again, there's that shift in education, and I think, in the what teachers have had to go through, the massive pivot
Mm.
that we all had to undertake, for the better part of 3 years. Um, it changed our viewpoint. It
Mm.
changed, what is valuable, what is education, what is learning, what do we need to
Mm.
make these young men and women, these children that are in our care, what do they need to be successful in their pathway? Because I think that's definitely changed the value of success in a particular pathway.
Mm.
Do you see that? Because I mean, I know so many educational institutions are looking at now pathways. There's so many opportunities in certificates and diplomas and in school apprenticeships and
Mm.
cadetships and a whole range of things. Is that what you mean when education has shifted?
Yeah, I think it's a whole range of different things. I think there's a context of how young people view school now, and is school actually fitting the needs of young people as it currently stands. And um, I think there'll be a fit for some, but traditional school, like I would argue, in the last 50, 60, 70 years, if you put aside technology and AI and things like that, what has really shifted in education? Yet the way people learn, interact, travel, communicate, connect, careers, pay, everything's family shifted. People have shifted, and that's not all for the better. So, of course, then there is this now evolving nature of pathways. And I talked earlier just about Josiah and personalising learning. So, yes, I think it is. I think there is this greater need to look at personalising pathways and looking at how we shape experiences and readiness. I think a lot of young people now are really deeply considering the value of questioning the value of tertiary education. If you are, years ago, certainly when I went to uni was so cheap. And it was, I'll give that a go for a year. And if I don't like that, I might change courses, or I'll do an arts degree for a year and then see what happens. And then I'll move into that. Now with degrees, your run-of-the-mill degree, maybe $70,000, $80,000. There isn't scope for that anymore, and young people are really seeing the impact of HECS debt, and so they want to. And this is good. They want to be really sure this is the pathway and career that I want to take. And of course, if it requires those specialist tertiary skills, then my eldest just turned 16 last week, and he wants to be a physio. So it's uni for you, buddy.
Yeah.
But for those that are maybe, I'm not really sure, it might be finance, it might be this. Well, more are really looking at going into potentially the workforce, or looking at other options to be sure, to then potentially look at a tertiary pathway. So so I think we need to be doing more with our young people to shape this, their last 3-4 years at school, to help them on that direction and what they take.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, like outside of the school environment, out of the educational world, businesses are starting to go, you know what? What's the point of the degree? They actually are taught stuff that is often outdated. But if we get them in, we can actually train them. We can help them better themselves, but also work for betterment for our business. So, I mean, I'm all for apprenticeships. Like I'm a tradesman, first and foremost, and then I was an educator. And my trade actually was the foundation to set me up for the rest of my career. Now, I was a spirited young man at school. I was exploring the social aspect of what education could bring. But my goal was just get a trade. And I did that, and I was, thankfully I was in quite a nurturing environment. I had some supportive staff, some not so supportive staff, but look, that was the 80s and 90s. But the trade and that opportunity to just go, okay, I'm going to work out who I am, what I want to do. I gained a skill, I gained resources, I gained resilience, I gained knowledge. And then I could take that into, now I've been a technology design teacher for the last 20 plus years, but I don't think I would have been as successful without that allowance to explore the opportunities that were available then. So
no, definitely. And I think so that's the value of, really assessing experiences and looking at options and pathways before, launching straight into, potentially, further education, if you're not sure, really what that next pathway is. So certainly that's what we're doing here. We're really looking at trying to provide greater support and personalisation to what that looks like. Just an example, the Commonwealth government do the survey of school leavers, and so more and more you can see this declining of students going straight into further education, and that was nearly a third last year from the school leavers of 2023, more than a third didn't go into further education. They went into work.
Yeah. How do you find that, or how do you, as a headmaster, principal, how do you pivot the school to cope with that? Like, because I mean, you have outside forces
Mm,
working as well. They're going, well, we need to do this and we need to do this and this gets us on this and this. So how do you, I guess, how do you talk to your board to go, hey, we really need to look at these things and here's
mm,
some research and here's some information to back it up. How is that how is that taken
mm,
in the I guess sometimes probably prickly meetings that you may have to have?
mm. Well, I think it's about being informed, Phil. So you talked about it there. I think it's really about the data tells the story, and I think we're fortunate, that we're always going to have I suppose a majority of students that are going to pursue, and they're highly academic, and they're going to pursue that tertiary pathway. I think the big thing for us is that how can we do a better job of supporting the students that may not be wanting that particular pathway, and or have other questions, and may do it later. So I think it's about how do you best cater for a diverse pathway, but the key is the data. So the key is understanding your students, your families, and yes, that may be shifting, but listen, it may switch, it may flip back. You just don't know. So you can't be reactive. It's just about being proactive and being data informed, I think, is key.
Yeah, and I guess that's with anything that
Mm,
uh, we you need to know both sides of the story
yeah.
in order to get the best outcome for each individual. Now, look, as I said earlier, I appreciate your time so much, and it is a school night. It is the end of term. We've nearly
Yeah.
made it. It's we're nearly there. But so I've just, if I may, I've just got a couple of more questions for
Sure.
you. Um, the first one is, out of everything you do, out of your daily experiences, what is the best thing about being a head of school?
Oh, that's an easy one. It's going down and talking to the kids. Going down and talking to the kids is the highlight. One thing I like to try and do is and I don't get to do it every day, and I'm not. It's been hard. It's been actually something I've got to refocus on harder. I try and go and see in the senior school anyway. I try and visit every single student for the day and go and see them in
Yep.
class. That's sort of something that I try and do. And it's been a little bit of a failure, but if I don't, I pop them an email and say, listen, sorry, I can't do it. And it's even better when Marlo and Maisie are with me, because it's it's you get birthday pats. But
Yep.
yeah, that's an easy one. Yeah, for me, it's just go down into the school, go and visit classrooms, go and speak to kids.
Yeah, that's excellent, and that's what I love. I mean, and that is shown out. Like this is the first time we've chatted in
Mm,
depth, but we've interacted on various social platforms,
mm,
predominantly LinkedIn. But it's just yeah, I see that's your passion is for your students, and that just shines through, and also it's reflective of in your staff. I mean, you seem to Emmanuel College seems to have quite a better than average retention rate of staff. So how do you go about that?
Oh, listen, I hope it's. I'd like to say it's cultural, and my prayer would be that it's cultural, in the sense that it's I hope it's not. I hope it's not coincidence or chance, Phil. Um, it may be. I'll probably have some of my staff commenting, going, "Oh, it's chance, it's chance." It's not. But yeah, but I do hope it's culture. I think there is, and that comes back to what we chatted about right at the start of the pod. I think I believe it comes down to just that culture and care, and that staff really deeply do care about each other and they support each other, and we're just really, I think I certainly feel lucky. I feel blessed to be within this place and to do what I do, and I think by and large most staff feel the same way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I only ever hear amazing things. So, and like I said, I've been on campus a couple of times. Like my daughter, for her final 2 years of school, was at King's Christian College, and she was involved in the she was chapel captain. So we had a couple of things that we came up and did things, and again, I mentioned a staff member, your dean of science, but also another teacher who just recently left to go back to her original career in law. So all I hear is amazing things. So you, not only yourself, but obviously the culture that you've inherited, you're fostering that and growing that. So I'm sure your staff and students appreciate it.
Thanks, Phil.
Now, I'm going to go, like I said, I've got a couple more questions, just final ones, just a little bit lighter than maybe what we've covered.
Yeah, sure.
But as a person, as an educator, as a family man, is there a verse, a mantra, a quote that just constantly resonates with you, that may be up on your wall, or that's a screensaver somewhere, or is there something that you hold on to?
Well, I hope my staff are all, and if they're listening to it, they're chanting this, because this is something I say all the time, and I'm a big fan of Jim Collins and his books and his work, but for me, it's good to great is never done, and in the sense that the moment you think you're great, the downfall has already commenced. So for me, it's and I think that's just what I try and live myself, but also lead, within our school community, that, we can always be better, and how are we striving to always do things better and be better and serve better. So that's probably the most common one that I would go to.
Oh, fantastic.
That's the level 5. That's the level 5 leader. So if yeah.
I'll put it on the list. Now, is there and I ask all my guests this, is there a challenge that you would like to put out to the listeners?
Listen, I would, if you haven't, and I've got it right here, if your listeners haven't read The Anxious Generation, it's probably back to front within the camera now, but
it's right there.
Yeah, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. That's probably been a really compelling book that I've read this year, and I'm really sort of pushing it hard with my community. Just because of the, I'm deeply concerned about the impact of technology and social media within our kids, and how that's forming our young people. And I suppose I'm not so sure that I won't get into the political landscape, Phil, but the whole notion of the ban that passed in Parliament last week from 6, I'm not sure whether that's just going to be enough. I think they're thinking in the right way, but I would just encourage. I think the more that we can raise, the awareness of what's happening within the shift over the last sort of 15 years within kids, and I think the worm's turning. I think we've sort of hit a bit of critical mass with some of these things. So I deeply care about kids, and so that concerns me, and I think we need to do more across schools, parents, but also the bigger picture, tech companies and governments and other sorts of things, to try and support our kids. So yeah, I'll get off the soapbox.
Oh, look, that is a whole podcast in and of itself. Talking about all the benefits and the pitfalls of social media, because I mean we clickbait seems to focus on all the negatives, but we do forget that there are some amazing educators out there doing some amazing things on social media, and it's reaching those kids that often wouldn't be reached in a classroom. So yeah, and that book, it's on my reading list. but yeah, haven't quite got to it yet. But
listen, it's heavy going, really, really good. But actually listened to it first so it's on Spotify Premium. If those listeners are on Spotify Premium, it's only a solid 16 hours of listening. But yeah, great Christmas listen, and then get stuck into the book maybe as a follow up.
well, I might be doing a drive to Perth, so it could be I could be doing it then. So
Yes, it's not even one way, Phil.
absolutely. Hey, now, last but certainly not least, it wouldn't be the Tattoo Teacher podcast without asking you, Dan, and please, if you need to say, I'm not going to no comment on this one. Do you have any tattoos?
No, I don't. No, I'm sorry, Phil. I'm really, listen, yeah, I don't. I'm a clean skin.
I think I'm running, I've got to double check, but I think I'm running it probably about 50-50 on those who have tattoos and those who don't. So, and I've talked to people all over the world as well. So, yeah, look, it's something to be said. And look, I didn't get my first one until I was 30, actually. It took me 10 years to talk my wife into going, it's all right, I'll get one. It'll just be one.
Yeah. Oh well, my 50th coming up in a couple of years. 2.5 years. Never say never, Phil. You never know.
Well, exactly. Well, I just ticked over 50, and my eldest son paid for my my most recent tattoos. So, it's an amazing journey. Like everyone goes, "Are you worried about turning 50? What are you?" It's like, no, it's just look. Hey, apparently 50 is the new 40, but you know what? I as I say to my wife, I sleep. I try and sleep well. I sleep like an old man because I fall asleep at 9:30 while we're watching TV. But I blame my students. But I eat like a teenager, or I've got the sense of humour of a 20-year-old. So I figure, you know what, I'm young at heart. I'll be fine.
That's a good mantra to live by.
Oh, look, you can't take life too seriously. I've been around the sun long enough, and I've experienced life in many ways, and I've had, much like yourself, I've had tremendous celebrations, but I've also had the lows and the heartache that life can bring. So, but in all of that, as you can attest, I've got my faith. I hold fast to that. And look, joy comes in the morning.
Absolutely, Phil.
That's sort of what I live by. But Dan, thank you so much for your time tonight. I do appreciate it, especially at this time of year. I wish you a blessed and Merry Christmas. I hope you finish off the year well. I look forward to seeing more of what Emmanuel and Josiah and the joy that you bring your students.
Yeah, no, thank you, Phil, for the opportunity, and the same to you. Have a great break, and thanks for the opportunity.
Cheers. Thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much for listening to the Tattoo Teacher podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it insightful. If you like what you heard, it would mean so much to me if you could either like, follow, and subscribe to whatever platform you are listening on. The music was by DJ Fruit Salad. Thanks again for listening. Stay cool. Be blessed.